Ever had a secret desire to go full Conan the Barbarian? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women? And earn a hefty bounty award for your troubles? All while holding a permission slip from the United States Congress itself? Your time might be now. Look what I just came across. Congressman Tim Burchett of Knoxville, Tennessee, posted the following on X. Quote, I'll be introducing the Cartel, Marque, and Reprisal Authorization Act of 2025, which would authorize real Donald Trump to commission privately armed and equipped individuals or groups to seize persons and property of any cartel, cartel member, or cartel-linked organization. Close quote. Well, all right. Anybody interested in becoming a legal privateer? See Central and South America, meet interesting people, lawfully arrest them, take their stuff, and get paid a sweet bounty by the U.S. government? Well, what a time to be alive. Let's talk about how this letters of marque and reprisal thing really works. And if you stay to the end, I'll tell you how you can download your own fill-in-the-blank letter of marque and reprisal. I am, of course, attorney Andrew Branca for Law of Self-Defense, and if you like our content, then please hit those like and subscribe buttons and ring that bell. It really helps us out, and it's free. So what is a letter of marque and reprisal? How does an American citizen go about getting one, and what exactly does it let you do? A letter of marque and reprisal is a permission slip from the government, in this case the United States government, to privateer on sea or land. In other words, to be a sort of private navy or army. Under U.S. law, the Constitution grants Congress the exclusive power to grant letters of marque and reprisal and make rules concerning captures on land and water. And yes, that means Congress has the exclusive power to do this even over the objection of whoever the president might be. The founders wanted Congress to have a way to bring military force against someone they don't like, even if the commander-in-chief disagreed. Although in this case, of the currently proposed bill, the expectation is that President Trump would himself be signing off on these anti-cartel letters of marque and reprisal. Historically, letters of marque were used mostly where the government lacked sufficient military resources to protect its subjects' commerce. For example, cargo ships on the ocean being vulnerable to lawless pirates. Licensed privateering first became common after the fall of the Roman Empire in Western Europe left a power vacuum, and there was a need to both protect the commerce interests of one's subjects as well as to provide justice when raids did happen. To these purposes, privateers engage in two general types of activities. First, private navies and armies would protect the commerce interest of the sovereign's subjects. Second, they could also hunt down and seek retribution, reprisal, really plunder and loot from those who had pirated that commerce. It's much like being a legitimate pirate who only attacks criminal pirates. As European states began to mature, but when they still lacked the resources to have as large an army or navy as they would like, privateering took on a different role. Instead of the privateers merely protecting their own commerce, they also began to raid foreign commerce. They, in effect, became a quasi-extension of their nation's military, but paid for out of plunder rather than from the public treasury. And that is a key part of being a privateer. They are not paid by their government, as the military is. They are paid with the stuff they seize. And especially in the context of seizing an entire merchant vessel and all the goods within it, that can be a great deal of value indeed. What distinguished these privateers from lawless pirates is not merely that they had a government-issued permission slip in the form of a letter of marque and reprisal. It's also that the letter of marque imposed limits on their operations. As in the U.S. Constitution, it not only grants Congress the right to grant letters of marque and reprisal, they also have the power to make rules concerning captures on land and water. These rules could govern most anything having to do with the privateer's operations, where they could operate, for how long, in what manner, rules for engagement, rules for how opposing personnel were to be treated, and so forth. Actual lawless pirates had, of course, no such rules. These quasi-military forces armed with letters of marque and reprisal added tremendously to the force projection capabilities of their nations. In the context of the United States during our Revolutionary War, for example, we had a minuscule naval force compared to the master of the seas, Great Britain, whom we were fighting. And we certainly did not have enough naval force to both engage in military operations and also in the raiding of British commerce. The use of letters of marque allowed our Navy to focus on fighting British warships, while our privateers focused on raiding British commerce. Let me share some data to put the contribution of these privateers into context. During the Revolutionary War, the American Navy consisted of only 22 true man-of-war combat ships out of a total fleet of 64 ships of all sorts. In contrast, around 2,000 privateers were commissioned. That's quite the supplement to a fleet of 64. And the privateers were busy little bees. Throughout the Revolutionary War, the Navy captured about 200 ships. In contrast, the privateers captured more than 3,000 ships, which is, of course, how the privateers were paid. Ka-ching! America saw its last surge of letters of marque in the War of 1812. Once more, we were fighting the British, of course, but that was the final conflict in which Congress issued letters of marque. As America developed its own overwhelmingly powerful and capable government military forces, the apparent need for supplementation by privateers simply diminished to the vanishing point. Although the need did come back, although we don't tend to call them privateers today, we tend to refer to them as private military companies, or PMCs. One of these modern PMCs is Executive Outcomes, mostly elite former South African Defense Force soldiers. Executive Outcomes was deeply involved in fighting in Angola in the 1990s and later that decade in Sierra Leone with great effect. Around the 2000s, the United States itself made much use of the PMC Blackwater, and in more recent years, Wagner Group, former soldiers of the Russian military actively fighting in Ukraine, also fit this bill. These PMC arrangements make total sense for countries with a less than capable standing military or that simply wish an alternative to their standing military. The rationale for the U.S. issuing letters of marque in 2025 is, of course, as an alternative to our overwhelming military force. Because the use of our military forces carries two costs that the use of privateers does not. First, the monetary cost. We pay for our military from our own treasury. Privateers, in contrast, are self-financed through plunder, so they don't cost the taxpayer a dime. Indeed, they likely contribute to the treasury, as the value of plunder is typically split between the privateer and the treasury. Second is the cost of the lives of our military, inevitably lost in conflict. Americans don't like it when their military sons and daughters are killed in combat, especially if the combat may lack overwhelming public support. Privateers, in contrast, are private volunteers who chose this privateer life with all its risks and rewards. Hey folks, I want to take just a moment to invite you all to our upcoming live and 100% free Law of Self-Defense Hard to Convict webinar. This free webinar teaches you how to be hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, or your property. The webinar is live streamed by me personally, and there's plenty of opportunity for Q&A. Best of all, it's 100% free, but we do limit seats to allow for adequate Q&A. So I urge you to grab your seat right now by signing up at lawofselfdefense.com/hard-to-convict. So, you've decided you want to be a privateer in 2025 and start going hard and fast at the cartels. Travel through Central and South America, meet interesting people, seize them, and take their stuff. You contact your congressman, request a letter of marque, and sure enough, a bit later, it arrives in the mail. What might that look like? Here, I'm going to credit a very good law review article I came across that provided a helpful model letter of marque. I'll provide a citation to that article in the description. And for the purposes of filling out this model letter of marque, I'm going to use the notional private military company created by the brilliant mind of my good friend Nick Cole, author of great military sci-fi and other wonderful fiction. One of Nick's collections of books covers the missions of a spacefaring private military company called Strange Company. As it happens, Nick has just pre-released the third volume in this series. I've no doubt it will be as fantastic as the first two, which I enjoyed tremendously. I'll include links to all three Strange Company books in the description and tell you you're a fool if you don't check them out. They're awesome. Okay, let's jump into our model letter of marque and reprisal. Thanks again to the author of that law review article, William Young, that provided us with a template. It reads, United States Congress, Letter of Marque and Reprisal, Section 1, Issuance of Letter of Marque and Reprisal. The Congress of the United States authorizes and commissions, under an officially issued letter of marque and reprisal, the privately funded and privately equipped firm, Strange Company, LLC, to employ all means reasonably necessary to seize, capture, destroy, outside the geographic boundaries of the United States and its territories, the person, property, equipment, weapons of the cartel organizations and members designated in Appendix A, as may be periodically updated by Act of Congress. Section 2. Regulations applicable to Strange Company, LLC while acting under this letter of marque and reprisal. 1. Strange Company, LLC shall conduct its operations in accordance with the principles of capture contained in the Army Field Manual 2-22.3, September 2006 edition. 2. Strange Company, LLC shall conduct its operations in accordance with the principles of war contained in Department of Defense Law of War Manual, June 2015, updated July 2023. 3. Any and all offenses committed by individuals employed or utilized by Strange Company, LLC while acting under letter of marque and reprisal shall be tried and punished as like offenses are or may be tried and punished when committed by a person belonging to the armed forces of the United States in a manner to be determined by Congress. Section 3, Security Bond. Strange Company, LLC shall post a security bond in the amount of $1 million to ensure compliance with the conditions set forth in this letter. Failure to comply with the standards and requirements set forth in this letter will result in the forfeit of the security bond. Good hunting, Strange Company, and never forget hot soup. Now, as I promised at the start, if you'd like to download your own fill-in-the-blank letter of marque, you'll find a link to that in the description. I'll close up by reminding all of you that if you carry a gun so you're hard to kill, that's why I carry a gun, so I'm hard to kill, so my family is hard to kill, then you also owe it to yourself and your family to know the law so you're hard to convict as well. Until next time, I remain Attorney Andrew Branca at lawofselfdefense.com. Stay safe.